Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns, and I wanted to briefly let you know that we have received, as you would expect, your frustrations about Miss Edmonds not having office hours. That's been the case for 7 or 8 years now. As many of you are aware, the Office of Inspector General cited her for what was blatant payroll fraud that was characterized by Patrick Lowry at the State Civil Service Department. And so we did put the request. I'm going to give you a direct link to the request for an agenda item to be on the November 7th LALB meeting, calling for Miss Edmonds to reinstitute a bare minimum of 6 hours a week to be conducted in the office and published on the website, such that if you are coming in to renew your license and you want to drop the material off, you will know that she will be there on these 6 hours. That is a very minimal request. And before we go into that, I want to break away for just a moment. This whole thing about Miss Edmonds' work situation has come up previously in board meetings, and I want to break away for former LALB Executive Director Sherry Wilkes to describe the environment in which she worked. Let's break away for just a moment.
From the outset, Mr. Nobles, I was against this office not having a personnel here.
It is true I was not a full-time employee when I worked for the board. It is also true that I was required to be in the office for the number of hours that I was currently being employed. So whether that be the year or so that I worked 20 hours a week, or the 25 hours a week, or the 30 or the 35 hours a week, I was required to be physically in the office. I was also required to punch a time clock. I was required to take leave when I was not physically in the office. So I was required to abide by all of the same rules and regulations that every other state employee was required to do. And if I wasn't in that office, if I was on vacation, or if I knew that I was going to be out of the office for an extended period of time, I was also often required to call the temp service that the state is contracted with, West Staff, and hire a temporary to be a warm body in that office, because that's what Mr. Gay, who was the chairman of the board, required of me. So just to...
All right, you've seen Miss Wilkes and what was required of her, and yet Miss Edmonds has been able to get away with, for some time now, no office hours whatsoever. I've readily told you that cost a gentleman named Dan Mahaney in Illinois over $30,000 as a result of him not having proper licensure when he went to auction a French Quarter property. Now, the beneficiary of that $30,000 was Dave Gilmore. However, even Mr. Gilmore says that what happened with Dan Mahaney never should have taken place, that there should have been provision for him getting a license prior to the next board meeting, and that's one reason they had to resort to temporary licenses. But the whole issue is, if Miss Edmonds had merely pulled out a questionnaire and asked Mr. Mahaney these questions, the questionnaire was put together for a reason, not for her to just fly in there 12 minutes on the fly, because it's such a major interruption to her time schedule. There's your lack of focus, and that's what leads to the type of thing that happened with Dan Mahaney. So we will let you know how the board handles this request if they deny even putting it on today. The day that I'm filming this is October the 15th, and as you saw, the request was made in late September. So I would imagine it's probably going to be on the agenda. That's my guess, but they don't do a whole lot of communicating with me. But once we get a definitive word, or once this is put before the board, we will certainly bring you the video to let you know how it turns out. Let me just say this, there were a couple of folks who said, well, what's your goal here? Are you going to get her in there and then you're going to hire a private detective to show that she's not actually working the hours that she says to be working? Look, I'm not about to get up and broadcast, and by the way, we do appreciate anybody that said I'll contribute to the hiring of a private detective. Look, I'm not about to come up and broadcast what all we may engage in to entrench these folk in illegal activities, all right? It would be another stupid move on my part to get up and broadcast that, well, here's what we're going to do. But I can tell you that obviously you would have known from my reporting the payroll fraud previously that if I can catch these folks in illegal acts, I'm going to do it, all right? It would not surprise me for one or more person to end up in jail. It just wouldn't surprise me. But I'm going to do my part. If there's illegal activity going on, you damn right I'm going to. And Mr. Bankston's checkered past, in my opinion, only lends additional impetus in that regard, because I have zero faith, and I do mean zero, in his ability to withhold any integrity within that office. And that's based on his past history and dealings that I have had with him from the time that he was hired to represent this board.
Governor, I'll ask a yes or no question, and it'll be very simple. If I am a state employee and I have a state-issued cell phone, and I am vacationing in Disney World, or I am laying on the beach while claiming to be on the clock because I have this cell phone, would you define that as being on the clock? Would you define that as working?
I would not.
So thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed all of the videos that you've seen from this episode, and we look forward to bringing you summations from the November the 7th LALB meeting. Thank you so much.